For the last couple years, many of my videos have been recorded with the assistance of a teleprompter. And in a few of my behind-the-scenes videos, when I mention I use a teleprompter, I often get many requests to demonstrate how I use it without it looking like I'm using one. In fact, I'm using it right now. Everything I just said, I was reading from the teleprompter on that lens right there. I'm still doing it. On the end of my lens is a Padcaster Parrot V2, which is a handy little unit. It works with your phone and has a decent app, and it comes with a Bluetooth remote. I have no real complaints about it. The only things that you need to be aware of, though, is that it's not very big and can't support too wide of lenses. I find you get vignetting on anything that's 24mm or wider when shooting full frame. So 35mm is the minimum I'd use, and that's what I'm using now. But that's okay because longer lenses actually lend themselves better to masking your reading because you want the camera far enough away that the little eye movements that go side to side as you read aren't so obvious as if the camera was right up in your face. And I find that 35mm with a shot like this provides enough of that masking without placing the camera so far away that you can't actually read the screen without squinting. So this is my sweet spot, where there's more to the eyes than just scanning back and forth. I find that when people are uncomfortable reading from a teleprompter, you can see them become transfixed with the lens as if they're afraid of missing a word, and that concentration feels a little unnatural compared to how they usually speak. So it's important that you physically look more relaxed, but also aid the illusion by glancing away from time to time, or add some affectations that make you look like you're considering the ideas in your video or perhaps thinking of a word. This part takes practice, but there's something you can do to make this whole exercise more difficult, which will in turn also make your practice much more effective. Interact with an object while practice reading your script. For example, when it comes to cameras, it can be very challenging to read a script that talks about a battery door while also opening that battery door at the right time in a natural way. But if you can master this, you'll find that when you don't have an object to interact with, you'll naturally find it easier to look around while reading your script, as if you're trying to find that invisible camera to play with, which nobody does when reading from a teleprompter, thus tricking everyone into thinking you are just extremely adept at crafting complicated sentences on the fly. But in order for any of this to work, there's two things you need to do. One, you need to write a script in your speaking voice, not your reading voice. Sometimes we tend to write things like we're trying to win a Pulitzer Prize, but then when it comes time to read them from a teleprompter, it doesn't flow like talking does. So write your script as if you were talking to someone, not writing an essay for top marks. And then two, you have to test your script when it's done. By that, I mean practice reading it out loud. It has to be out loud, with the flow and cadence you'd like it to have when you record your video. This will help train your brain to remember to place emphasis and pauses where you want them, but it will also highlight sections of your script that are challenging or potential problem areas. For example, sometimes I write a sentence I like, but then when I read it back out loud, it comes across as too sibilant, or maybe I accidentally wrote a tongue twister. Tongue twisters don't cause problems when reading in your head, only when speaking. So if you find a section that you have a hard time reading out loud, change it. Because if you're messing it up now when the cameras are off, you best believe you're going to mess it up even worse when you're recording. And if you master these tips, not only will your videos be more engaging because you get to share a script you're proud of while maintaining some of the audience rapport aspects you typically can only build with unscripted videos, sort of a cake and eat it too scenario, but it also has positive financial implications if you're doing sponsored content for YouTube or the like. Scripted sponsor reads can be quite stuffy at times, but they're a bit of a necessity since they're usually based on time. You don't want to be rambling on for 4.5 minutes for a 30-second ad spot just to keep it natural. So if you can make your ad read seem more organic and transition well, your viewers are a lot less likely to just fast forward immediately. For example, watch how I do this ad read for the sponsor of today's video, Storyblocks. So sometimes you don't have the shot you need and there's no way you're going to be able to go out and get it before you run out of time, run out of money, or run out of patience by completely derailing your creative momentum. And that's where Storyblocks comes in. They've got subscriptions for every budget that give you access to a vast, royalty-free library with unlimited downloads, allowing you to use the footage worry-free for both personal and commercial projects. They're also focused on enriching their catalog with diverse and inclusive content to provide useful assets to creators with varying needs and audiences. And this is all easily accessed using their intuitive interface with filters for 4K video at multiple frame rates, along with backgrounds and After Effects templates. If you've never browsed Storyblocks before, I think you'll truly be impressed by just how exhaustive their library is. And I encourage you to learn more about them by using the link in the description below. And yes, I did just trick you into listening to my entire sponsor message. And yes, that evil chuckle is real, because my last tip to remember is to act out the emotion, tone, or attitude any particular sentence is supposed to convey. Some people throw all emotion out the window when they're reading from a prompter, and not only does this create a robotic, sleep-inducing intonation, but it's an immediate giveaway that you're reading. If your sentence is about a time you got angry, show frustration while reading your script. If you're relaying a detail you think is overhyped or unimportant, wave it off while you talk. If it's funny to you, chuckle a little. Just remember to use your normal conversational voice. Don't try to sound more sophisticated. Don't over-enunciate. And don't emote when you wouldn't. People have great senses for when something doesn't feel true or authentic to them, and you'll distance your audience by repeatedly giving them that feeling. But I hope that this video shows that reading from a teleprompter doesn't have to cause that sensation in your viewers if you practice these tips, and it can actually make your videos better and easier to make while efficiently delivering a more polished message. All right, I'm done.